In this video, I will be discussing 1-6, look for a pattern grids. This is the last section of topic 1, so congrats on getting this far. In this lesson, we're going to do a little bit of problem solving. You'll be given grids that look like this, kind of almost like hopscotch grids, and you need to use what we learned to fill in the grids. This slide is going to be really important because it's going to tell you the pattern that our book is looking for. The pattern that the book generally follows is that when you go down in a pattern grid, you're adding 1/10, and as you go left to right, you're adding 1/100th. So that would mean that as I went down in this grid on the left here, my tenths place is going to get 1/10 bigger every time. So I have 0.31, next would be 0.41, 0.51, and 0.61. Every time I went down, my tenths place got bigger by 1. Let's look at the left to right pattern on this other grid over here. As you go to the right, you add 1/100th. So let's start with the one we know. Our 100th spot is here, so I'm going to add 1/100th. After 29/100ths comes 30/100ths. So you have to be careful when you have a 9 in the place value spot that you're looking for. So it will still have to get 1 bigger. So 29/100ths becomes 30/100ths. And adding 1 more 100th to that would be 31/100ths. Now, if we add 1/100th as we go left to right, when we go right to left or backwards, we do the opposite. We subtract 1/100th. So here in this square, I have 29/100ths to the right, so taking off 1/100th would be 28/100ths. Let's practice again on the next slide. Here's another example that's a little bit more complicated. This one gets a little bit trickier since it has some little holes and gaps there. But what I would do is simply fill in all the gaps as well, and then you can go back and erase them or whatever. So again, going up and down, we're adding 1/10, and going left to right, we're adding 1/100th. So let's go ahead and start with our up and down. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is look here at this 10th spot, and then every time I go down, I'll be adding 1/10 to that. So 0.45 would then be 0.55, 0.65, 0.75, and 0.85. Now let's look left and right and fill in our hundredths places. Since I filled in these gaps here, it's going to be really easy to fill in this square and this square. So if I look here at my 100th spot, I have a 5. I'm adding 1/100th, so 55/100ths becomes 56/100ths. Down here, 75/100ths becomes 76/100ths. Now at the end, you can go back and just erase these squares that you have. Pretty easy to fill it in if you go ahead and fill in those spaces as well. You could also think to yourself, for example, if I were filling in this one here, when I go down one jump, I go up 1/10, up 1 more 10th. So I would be adding 2/10. So 0.45 becomes 0.65. Again, going left to right, you could look at this one and see that it's 5/100ths. So anything in this next column here is going to have a 6 at the end. So then you could figure that out without writing in the spaces, but I would definitely recommend, to be sure that you get the right answer, to write in those spaces. All right, here's one last example. Remember, left to right, we add 1/100th, and up and down, we add 1/10. So I'll start with the up and downs. Here's my 10th spot. I have 0.55, so below that will be 0.65. Remember, going up, we're taking away 1/10, so 0.55 would be 0.45. And going left, I'm taking away 100th when you go left, so 0.45 or 45/100ths would be 44/100ths. This one, you could even, if you forgot what the patterns were, these patterns here, if you saw this square and this square, I see that going down, two things change. The tenths went up by 1, and the hundredths went up by 2. 5, 5. However, I only would make one jump to get to here, so it wouldn't make sense that as you go one jump down, the hundredths goes up by 2. So you could deduce that the pattern going down would be adding 1/10. But again, I would just try to memorize that pattern if you could, and use what you know to fill in the charts. Go ahead and try this one on your own. I would love if you could draw this little pattern grid in the square on your blue worksheet, and then go ahead and figure out what would go in the 2 missing spaces. Go ahead and look back at the other slides in the video if you're confused or you forget what the pattern is. Good luck!